the top 3 people that you hang around with are like who you become. And so when you think about alignment in your life and with the network and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, those people are there for maybe a season in your life to help you grow, learn, whatever. When someone's saying, well, I don't know what's in alignment for me, do you have any suggestions for them?
Well, alignment, yeah, it could be, your morals, your ethics, your all that type of stuff, right? But when I talk about alignment, it's more about connections. And I think a lot of people are so fearful right now of AI and all the things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, if you look at your network, and if your network's not strong, then look, I mean, that's a priority for you, right?
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Remember You. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're joined by John Andrade. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
All right. A commercial banking leader, entrepreneur, author of this amazing book here, and founder of Go for CEO platform podcast. With over 25 years helping emerging middle market companies grow, John created the 4A formula, this book right here. You guys can check it out at the end of the show notes. Assess, align, accountability, and action. We'll go into more detail here. You're going to learn how you could implement this in your life today by the end of this podcast. As the co-host or as the host of Go for CEO podcast, he interviews founders, CEOs, and leaders on mindset, resilience, and impactful leadership. Also a husband and father of 3 daughters. You have your hands full. John's passionate about helping people think big, lead better, and turn challenges into lasting growth. All right, so welcome.
Incredible intro. Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this. Obviously, having fun with you on my podcast because, check her out on the Go for CEO channel.
Yes, please.
We had you come on and, mutual friends and all that good stuff. You create connections that way. And that's chapter 2 of alignment, right? Is now that I know Christina, you helped me get some help to a podcast guest that I had.
Yep.
And now you guys are connected with Holly, right? The sales tax lady. So having had you on connected me to a podcast guest that I really felt would be a great connection with you. Look what happened. So it's pretty cool how that all works.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And even with that connection, the podcast host has to be open to saying, has to be open to saying, hey, I'm doing really well as a founder, CEO, and these are all the great things I have going, but I also have these issues. Like we all have to be open to sharing our shadow side to be able to come into alignment. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because it was one of the first, I've had people kind of peel the onion of some feelings, right? But she happened to be one of the first ones that I think after the show was over and we recorded, she kind of stayed a few more minutes, and we usually do kind of debrief. Hey, did you have fun? Like ask you, right? I ask everybody if they had fun. But she shared, she's like, hey, you asked me a couple of questions that hit home, and I kind of just stayed silent, and then it was just she gushed out, right? So, and I felt privileged, right, and honored that she would share that with me. I was kind of a stranger. I'm only known her for 45 minutes of interviewing, and I said, you know what? I think you just speak to someone. Christina, and then I referred her to another CPA that does similar things that she does. So I think it put her off in the right direction. She sent me a DM on LinkedIn, and she was very grateful of it. And I was humbled by it because how cool is it that you can affect someone's life just by having a podcast and then introducing them to the right people? So
yeah, it's so awesome. All right, so take us back.
Yeah.
You were a latchkey kid at your core.
Yeah.
How did that shape of who you became and kind of that uncertainty in your life? How did that shape where you are today and the leader you are?
A great question. I think what happened was, being that I was adopted, and I didn't know that when I was first growing up for like first, second grade. My birth mother's my real mother, but I never knew my birth father.
Mm-hmm.
So the gentleman, stepfather, adoptive father, I had gone from John Paul Rivera to a few years later, John Paul Andrade.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the name, right? So, but first, second, third grade and living in Norridge, Illinois, bike riding. I literally just talked to my first grade friend about an hour or two ago. That's cool. Yeah, it was cool to hang out with them a few months ago at a Black Bus game. But that's what it taught me, I think, is the resilience of being able to be out, right? Walk to school, which I would never let my first grader walk to school right now with this world that we're in, or at least it seems like it.
Yeah.
But I think it taught me resiliency because my mom had to work and my adoptive father had to work. So when I came home, I didn't have anybody. So that latchkey was true. Like I opened the door, it was me, myself, and I. And if I was hungry, like my kids currently are hungry when I pick them up,
Yeah.
and they go to private school and all that good stuff. Like I went to public school, came home, figured out there was square Wonder Bread, some ketchup, and I did an old cheeseburger that we had 2 days ago, and I slapped it together, fried an egg.
At 6, you were fried eggs.
Yeah. So it was, but again, I think it always taught me like, hey, it's okay to be resourceful without most of the resources that you needed, right? Or that you felt like you might need. So I made up meals. Today, I'm the cook of the house because I'm quick. My wife does all the major like holidays. So she does Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, but I do every day.
Yeah.
And my kids joke because I'm fast, it's tasty, it's good. And it's like, I just invent stuff. Like yesterday, I like doing Brussels sprouts once in a while, and you fry them with a little honey and bacon stuff. I put it in my, because it was going to take too long. And I was literally at soccer practice with my 6-year-old till 6 o'clock. I had an 8 o'clock Bible study that I told you about earlier. So like I had like an hour and a half, and I took turkey meat, put it into different scenarios, ground them up, put some panko, breadcrumbs, did meatballs, then broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Then I microwaved it. I'd never microwaved Brussels sprouts, by the way. So
yeah, I haven't either. So they turned out good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that softened them up because they're hard. Right? So they softened them up for 4 minutes. I just popped up. I'm like, it should be good. Boom. Let's do it. And then I buttered up the saucepan. I got bacon in there with a little pancetta and then honey. And then I fried them up. And then they had turkey meatballs with that and a little pasta.
Oh, that's
15 minutes.
That's awesome.
Crazy.
That's good. I'm going to steal that. And there you go. You've already learned something. That can bake your Brussels sprouts way faster if you microwave them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're there for like 20, 30 minutes trying to get out. Yeah.
Oven, broiling them and stuff. And so
you had, did you ever have any siblings or anything?
No.
Or always alone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only child. So, which says a lot sometimes, I guess.
So tell me a little bit more about your childhood and then like how you decided to get into where you are today, like as you grew up and evolved.
Yeah. So again, with that same thing of being latchkey or, kind of being able to go out back in, the 80s and 90s, that, a little bit more freedom than we probably have now as parents to let our kids out. Maybe, I don't know. It just feels like social media kind of has ruined some of that freedom so that you don't helicopter because you're worried that, God forbid, abduction or whatever. So I feel like, the independence taught me to, find friends, create conversations. If I had $3 in my pocket, find a way to eat for $1.50 hot dog. And then later on for another $1.50, I remember going to Wendy's value meal for 99 cents.
That makes us feel old, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because now you can't get a meal for under $10.
Oh, it's crazy. And I would feast for like $3 or $4.
Yeah.
It was great. I had a baked potato, sour cream and chive, small chili with cheese, onions, and cheese, onion, and sour cream, and then a cheer bacon cheeseburger for like $3.67.
That's exactly. I mean, I remember when I started driving, the gas was 99 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to those days?
Well, but it's also relative. Like my adoptive father, when he passed away, I saw some old pay stubs.
Yeah.
I make like 6-7 times what he makes.
Yes.
So
that's true.
So it's relative, but then also, I think it's one of those things that I'm trying to impart to the kids because, get a beautiful home here, right? Like it's hard to, if you had a little bit of success in your life, to impart that type of resiliency in your kids.
Yeah.
Because they're living in a different world. And I'm not saying I'm mega rich or anything, but it's got to be hard at every level as you grow up or make it as an adult, and then you have kids, to impart that resilience, that toughness, right? So
Yeah,
that's what I got.
it is true. And it's one of the things that, like, I think a lot of people in this neighborhood and in this area struggle with.
Yeah.
Is, what's the balance of responsibility for them in some way, resilience, like you're saying, versus giving them too much. My son always says, he's 16 and he's like, Mom, like, I'm spoiled. I know that, like, there's a lot of other people who don't get what I get. So it's like, at least he sees that. But then how do you, like, really make that work for it? I mean, that's a question for every parent, right? I mean, for me, it was like making him going, once he got a car and could drive, but he went and got a job, and he's working, and he sees now, like, how hard it is making minimum wage to even fill his gas tank up. And he's like, that I literally spent my whole paycheck working 16 hours both days over the weekend, because he's in school, so he can work on the weekends and for school. And he's like, on a gas, all of it's gone. On a gas tank.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I had a similar experience. My middle child, she had, I think, $20 in her pocket or something. And she's like, hey, I'll buy Baskin Robbins. Like, she was cool, right? And so we pull up. It's the three daughters and myself. And we all ordered. It was like $19.28. And she gives me the 20. And she didn't realize, she didn't hear what it was. But then I gave her the change back. She's like, what happened? What's going on here? I was like, $20. I'm like, hey, welcome to being me, right? When we go out and, spend a couple hundred at a nice dinner or whatever it is, it's and I remind them, I think a few years back, we were sponsoring a kid out of Nicaragua through church. And it was really cool to see them, read some of the letters that little kid was saying, like, hey, he was so happy to get, 25, whatever it was that we were sponsoring him. But then, like, the sheer joy in his writing of, like, hey, I got underwear and like I got to buy some shorts and, whatever. And then we would send, like, little gift bags and stuff like that. And I think it's set a little bit of a foundation for that, right? So, but again, hopefully that, that everybody listening, that was kind of where I came from, right? From that lower middle class, Bensonville, Norridge, Melrose Park area. Didn't really realize, like, who had more money than others, right?
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, you really don't when you're in that situation.
Yeah. So it's but so it's different living in Naperville and private school, whatever you're doing. Like, you just, the fact that sometimes your kids will come back and be like, hey, well, how come we don't have a bigger house like Joe Smith?
Yeah, and you're like, what?
Like, it's pretty big. It's doing all right. So
So walk us through, like, how the 4A formula came into your life and what made you decide to, one, write the book, and then walk us through what the book is all about and how the listeners can start to challenge their way of thinking a little bit.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Now that I'm an author, I'll challenge everybody, right? I say, hey, you should write a book. I meet everybody now with a different lens, because I say to them, like, it made me experience that every human being has its own story, has their own story. That I'm getting chills, because it was really cool to see my 13-year-old, when she was 13, read the manuscript of it. And it got, the kind of library, and I was messing up, the U.S. Library of Congress.
Yeah.
And when that certificate came, she's like, oh my God, Dad. And she's like, you're in, like, the U.S. Congress Library. That's really cool. And then she started reading it, and it made me think, okay, hey, 150 years from now, when I'm long gone, and who am I, a speck of nothing in the memories of people, 2-3 generations from now, like, somebody may pick up the book in my family that leaves them something that was a 2.5-year journey. So to answer your question, from that childhood of latchkey to being out of school, I was a D1 soccer player, and then tore my knee up, came back to be a love thing with off camera. We were talking about someone that I had that kind of episode in my life, got into telecommunications, started my own business because I just didn't go back to school. And then it's been telecom, automotive, and then finance, which I'm in now. And the book took 2.5 years, I think probably because I had some writer's block sometimes, but it was more dumping your ideas and releasing that, as you call it, energy, right, into something. It was a really cool experience because it started to help me understand that what I do, and I'm not saying this is the formula for everybody, but it was my formula. And it's something that I feel is special that I shared with the world now, that I have a way of doing things to kind of untangle challenges and think like a CEO would, in all parts of my life, my faith, my family, my fitness, my finances, and my fun. So that's what it really evolved into, is 2.5 years of putting together a book that hopefully if you pick it up, it's a simple read. It's not complicated.
It's really short for everybody looking or watching this on YouTube. It's short.
Yeah. It was cool because I did a podcast with a lady that's a executive coach over entrepreneur and all that stuff. And while during our podcast that she was on my podcast, Go for CEO, she picks up the book. She's in England.
Yeah.
And she goes, John, you are this book. And she starts getting really emotional. She's like, I can feel the energy. Like she's kind of that feeling. And it was really amazing because I'm like, wait, you're like someone in England. My books. And it's really cool. So all that stuff is to say, assess, alignment, accountability, and taking action. All right. So 4-step formula. It's the subheading is untangle any challenge and think like a CEO. So I've had, 400 CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs like yourself that have exited, started, failed stuff, all that good stuff on the podcast. And then I've done my own success and failures, right? And that's what culminated into this formula of how I do things in every walk of my life. Recently, I got a wrist, my JOB.
JOB, that's awesome.
Yes, I'm a commercial banker, and I went into my own inside of, okay, well, what do I do? Am I truly, I on my newsletter said, practice what you preach. That week I got let go, March 3rd. The next week was the Monday that I released the newsletter. And I gave a detailed scenario of what I'm going to do using my own approach to get myself back into where I want to go, either entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial, which is what I do when I'm, for a company. So.
Yeah. And look at, okay, so that was March 3rd. And we're recording this on March, what is it, 19th?
May 19th.
May 19th, sorry, May 9th. I can't. So that was very short time. And look where you are. You've already got multiple offers. You've got lots of great things ahead of you. And so the formula really works when you sit down and use it.
Yeah, and I'll say where my heart is in this book is in chapter 2.
Okay.
And I'll share with you, right? If you think about this, Christina's referred to me through a buddy of mine that's in marketing, that he did a podcast with you and Gunnar. Then he says, hey, you need to talk to Christina. We kind of jockey back and forth on text. It wasn't working out. And then we're like, hey, let's just get on a podcast and do it that way just to connect. We connect, then loops around that I introduced someone to you. Okay. And now you gave me positive feedback. Now you're having me on your podcast.
Yeah.
So listen up. Chapter 2 is about alignment, right? And the only thing that's really been favorable to a high level in my life is the people I've been connected to. And that's the only thing that's ever really been the true value.
Yeah.
Everything I've known, everything I've studied, all the stuff that I could, academically or even competently know is far less, in my opinion, than the people that I know.
It's so true. And if we dig a little bit deeper into that comment, if you think about it, there's a saying that the top 3 people that you hang around with are like who you become. And so when you think about alignment in your life and with the network and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, those people are there for maybe a season in your life to help you grow, learn, whatever. Maybe they're there for just 5 minutes to teach you something in the here and now. Or maybe they're there for a longer stretch in your
season, reason, life.
Exactly. John. So if you think about it that way, when someone's saying, well, I don't know what's in alignment for me, do you have any suggestions for them
Well, alignment, yeah, it could be, your morals, your ethics, your all that type of stuff, right? But when I talk about alignment, it's more about connections, right? So, I get let go March 3rd, which was a Tuesday. We're about to sign on building a house March 7th. That Saturday.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So there you go, right? And because of these girls that you said that I have, right? We taught them the right way. That the 13, now 14-year-old says to me, "Hey, I'm going to high school. I know that it takes about 9 months to build a house." She's like, "Dad, if you don't get a job again, or if you start a business and it's too hard to build this house, she's like, don't worry about it. It's like, I love you. And, it is what it is." Right. That's what chokes me up, because you teach them the right way, but there's alignment right there, right? She's aligned with me as her father, and that's natural. But alignment is, like, within 2 or 3 days, I had 7 people call me from 7 different banks. They were all connections through 2 or 3 people that were my main connections.
Yeah.
So in other words, I get let go. In 2 or 3 days, I had 7 calls from 7 different banks, people on the board of Summer Corps, which is a SBA 504 organization. That guy is on the board. The president says, "Hey, Mike, you need to call John. He just got let go. I think it'd be a great fit." So that went somewhere. Another one was where I left. My former colleague knew 3 people, and I knew 2 of the 3. He made the introduction on text message. They all call me, say, "Hey, let's do lunch."
Yeah.
So within a week and a half to 2 weeks, I had literally met with 5 banks like that.
Yeah.
But it's because of the alignment that I had. I was aligned with the right people. And I think that a lot of people are so fearful right now of AI and all the things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, if you look at your network, and if your network's not strong, then look, that's a priority for you, right?
That's right.
That's who are you actually hanging out with? And that's one of the things that even as a kid, like my oldest one has gone through the challenges of 3rd grade to 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And she's changed her centers, right? With her people, like her friends. But it's funny or interesting. We're sitting at an awards dinner for her at her school. And, this isn't, I guess I'm bragging a little bit, but my daughter got a bunch of awards from Kiwanis. Like, I didn't even know these awards existed. She got like $50 for running an essay. That's to, Kiwanis and a club in Naperville. And she got top 10% test taking at Bennett High School for their entry exam. So it was $1,000 scholarship. She got that. She got, right? And we're sitting there, my wife and I, is saying to ourselves, in 3rd and 4th grade, this could have gone wrong, because the girls, and again, nothing against them, but they're just a little bit off. These girls are kind of on a wrong direction, and they're still in the prides about all that type of stuff, right? But my daughter decided to hang out with these girls over here, and all 3 of those girls, top soccer players at a soccer club, great grades, all A students, honor roll, and all of them tested high to get into Bennett. These 3 girls, again, nothing against, what's happened in their life, but they used to all hang out. Now they're separating, and these 3 are going in the right direction. And it's just noticeable, right? So it affects you from a young age. And then as an adult, you kind of decide, like, where are you spending your time? So,
well, and to the point about like alignment, and for the listeners here, they know how I feel about this, but it's an energy thing. So she had a choice at that time to go with these 3 here or these 3 here. And she was like at a crossroads, and she internally, probably because you and your wife like help her make some better decisions for herself, but also the alignment and the energy in your family told her intuitively to go towards these other friends and people and bring that alignment, like we're talking, into her life so she could have these experiences in this reality now. Because it's almost like innately she knew that these people were not right for her. Now, if she doesn't have that internal ability to sit quietly and have the ability for your support, your wife's support, she may have made the wrong choice, right? But that would also have been something that she would have had to live with and move through. It's just it's as we're doing these things and moving towards alignment in your life, you have to have the time to sit and quite to understand who's aligned the best with you.
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting as you're saying that, having gone through some of the chapter 2 stories that I shared with a guy named Jerry Betterman and Brian Benekis and mentors that I share in the book of how it happened and at what points at 19, at 28, 36, at 45, right? Yeah, at 50. So, it's interesting, right? So as you said a little bit earlier, you see people come in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and then they come in and out, right?
That's right.
It's kind of like my relationship with God, where like I'm the prodigal son. I always joke around, say that because I'm like, I leave, I'm not as in tune with God, and then I come back, right? So it's an interesting dichotomy of that scenario. But again, chapter 2, I think people will really resonate and capture something about it that says to them, hey, let me evaluate. And look, some people are in your life because I think they love you and they want to protect you and all that type of stuff, but they're not actually serving you.
That's
right.
True.
They're doing it in a way of like somewhat selfishly, because I've had friends that tell me, hey, why do you work so hard? Like, when is success going to be enough for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, for me, it's a journey. Like, the next house, the next car, the next, that's not actually what I'm game. That's not my game. Like, you are interpreting my game as that, because I may have some nice things, but my game is actually a different game than I'm playing.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. So,
well, and it's interesting, like maybe we dig a little bit deeper into that, because it's also understanding that many people are like a mirror that come into your life. And so when say a friend is saying, hey, why do you work so hard? Maybe there's a part of you that wants to be like, okay, yeah, maybe I am working a little too hard, but I'm enjoying this journey, and maybe like sit with it for a minute instead of pushing through. So it might just be there is like a way to stamp you out of a subconscious like habit that you have, right? So, and then some people are also just there because and saying things to you. They may think they're being nice and being all these things to you, but they could also be jealous and all these other things that, what's the real motivation becomes the question.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately then that leads to, chapter 3, where you've got the only person that you're ever really truly accountable is the one in the mirror. Right. So I talk a lot about that and accountability, and there's great books about accountability. There's great YouTube channels. There's so many things, right? And I think we're in an era that if you want information, like, it's plentiful, right?
Right.
So my book, your book, anybody's book or channel or anything, I think, I really have resonated with your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes, it's true.
I've had to learn that, because I've had to, like, sometimes I'll be in certain places and I'm like, man, like, I like to hang out with these people, and they don't like me though. And you get subconscious about it. You're like, well, how come they don't like me? Like, I'd be a cool friend or a person to hang out with, right? Like, but it's just not your tribe, right? And it took me a while to really understand that. And it's funny relating that now I'm saying it out loud. There's been certain sectors of finance people, and there's a lot of ego in finance, right? Oh, well, we're investment bankers, and we're private equity, and we're this, and we're that, we're commercial banker. Like, but like you get to your tribe, and you thrive in that space, right? So
you kind of, and I agree with that. And I'm going to switch what we're talking about here. So you talk a little bit like really about this, the 4A's. If somebody's really unclear in what they have going on, or they're very stressed out, what would you tell them to do first?
Well, I think in those moments, chapter 1 is then where I fall back on always to everything. My faith, my family, my fitness, my finance, and fun, right? 5 F's. Stress. I'll just give an example. I mean, I literally just happened my drive here. My first grade friend, Anthony Marzullo, he's a national sales manager for a medical device, so like PET CT scan and stuff like that. And he's having some challenges, right? and we assessed it. That's what we did. We literally, for 25 minutes, got on the phone and assessed where he's currently at. What's going on? The market's been a little bit weak. My sales aren't coming in as strong. The owners of the company are asking me, hey, what's going on? How can we support you? But support isn't how he would like it to be from a support, like, human standpoint.
Yeah.
They bought some tools, some AI things, some things that can maybe help him, but he was struggling, right? So in that 25 minutes, we talked about assessing each area. Like, okay, in his world, there's a trail of commissions based on service contracts and the upfront equipment that he sells. There's, building out a team, right, that could do some of the more grunt work that in sales that you do, right? Like, think about the average business owner that gets into business. They're wearing 18 hats.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Right? And as you make a little bit of money, if you're smart about it and you put down the right standard operating procedures and can plug or hire someone into those, now you relieve a little bit of that 120% effort that you're giving to 92, right? Right. And again, that came down to 25 minutes of assessing, because I felt it,
Yeah.
I love that you're an energy person. Like, I felt he was stressed. He's a buddy of mine. I'm not putting him on a clock to consult with him. I'm being a friend.
Right.
I'm there for him. I let him speak initially. Now, as the receiver, I wasn't trying to assess right away, which I've had to learn. So, being a husband and a father of 3 daughters. So I was trying to listen. So he's like, right. So I was trying to listen. But then his own self-discovery, I asked a couple questions. And I think in his own way, he got off the phone call and he said, hey, thanks, bro. He's like, I really needed that. And I'm going to meet the owner in Los Angeles at a show that we have next week. He's like, I'm going to be hired now.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because it was exactly that. It was assessing where he's at, taking inventory of where they're at, or where he's at, where the company's at. What are the wants and needs, right? We talk in chapter 1 a lot about wants and needs. And to me, a want is nice. Like,
Yeah.
I want a new Range Rover,
Right.
right? Like,
Sherlin repeat.
whatever. But I need 4 wheels to take me places, right? So satisfy the needs, right? And then have goals for the wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talk a lot about that too, is a lot of people get stuck. He told me, he's like, hey, sometimes I'm content.
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay, great. How happy are you? Well, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
You just told me you're content. So there's an oxymoron for it. Like there's a yin yang, right? So you can't have it both ways, but okay, well, tell me. Well, if this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, I'd definitely actually be more happy.
Right.
Okay. Well, then how do we get there?
Yeah.
Right. And who am I aligned to? Like, we talked about some companies that are much bigger than his, because he's kind of more of like a small, medium-sized business.
Mm-hmm.
But Siemens, you ever heard of Siemens?
I know them well.
Siemens is in his industry. I'm like, do you know anybody at Siemens? He's like, yeah, I know 2 or 3 people at Siemens. I run into them all the time. I go, have you ever asked them if there's opportunities there? Well, it's a small world. I'm like, okay, well, that's your limiting belief. I go, you by asking and sharing and understanding and opening doors and aligning with the right people, you can have some doors open that, I'm not saying you have to leave your company, but what if that door opened and now you discovered something?
Yeah.
Right. So that's part of assessing everything you do. I mean, you just tore your Achilles heel, right? Or Achilles tendon. You have to assess now. Like, all right, well, what doctor's the best one?
Yeah.
Who's going to do my surgery? How long am I going to be out PTO? Or if you own your own business, do I have somebody that can come in and take over some appointments because I can't walk very much?
Right.
Right. I just got in a car crash. Okay, well, assess.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have insurance? What's my deductible?
Yep.
Is it 500? Is it 1500? Like,
Yeah, we just had that problem with my son. He's in baseball, and I was like, he needed an MRI. And we have like shitty insurance.
Oh,
sorry. And we were like, where do we go? Who do we go to? Like, and then we just kind of said, okay, well, we have a high deductible. I guess we're just going to have to eat this one and figure it out. You got to assess, like, do you want to get it fixed, or do you wait, or do you go to a different place, or do you pay cash out of pocket? Like, what is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would challenge you in that scenario. Maybe there was someone who knew someone who knew someone who knew a doctor that can get you in for maybe a discount or something. Like that's where I would do alignment. I would really find you assessed. You understand that there's a high deductible, all that stuff, but who in your network can help?
Right.
That's that's how I go to things. So I assess where I went, and then I go, oh, Alan Stern knows Christina.
Yeah.
If Christina does these things with B2B and mental health and Vibe and all this stuff, oh, I need to connect with it.
Yeah.
And then you may know a Dr. Smith of,
Yes.
orthopedic or whatever, right? So, because you're really like, how crazy is it that we're literally only 6 degrees of separation?
Well, I believe that we're
Maybe closer.
where I think we're closer. And honestly, in my worldview, and anybody can just, disagree with me, but we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do not remember which doctor I was listening to. It was on some podcast, but she really talked about like the left brain and the right brain. The right brain knows that innately we are all connected. So think of it as like a mesh, but we just don't see it because we think we're separate, but we're literally like connected. Our energy right now being this close is connecting us. We're all one. We're just separated in these bodies with these egos, with our left brain that wants to think, act, measure, judge, good or bad, whatever. And we forget because we hang out in the left side of our brain so much. This world wants analytics, facts, hard work, push, prove, do all these things. And when you just sit in your right brain for a little bit, you start to realize that there's joy in just being human, and that's a connection that we all have.
Can I share a secret?
Yeah.
So Christina has this bird that keeps on knocking against the window in her beautiful house. And how crazy is it just to enjoy that? Like this bird has some sort of reason that he's been knocking on your window for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's just looking at the leaves, right? Like this beautiful window that you have here, looking outside and just seeing the leaves and how they're growing and stuff and the change in seasons and stuff. That's one of the reasons I'm a Midwesterner. Like I will not move to Texas, Florida.
Yeah.
I like visiting hot places, but I like being in a hot place. Like for me, I like the change of weather and I like throwing on a sweater, shorts, unexpectedly long sleeve, a lower short sleeve. Like it's kind of my thing. But it's interesting to kind of see the change, right? That we get the privilege of having the 4 seasons in our life.
We do.
So.
And it's just like awe, like, oh man, this is life. And if more people went around like saying, this is life. I love the trees. I love the bird while the flowers are blooming, and like just sitting with that, just talking about it makes me feel better. So if you can do that in your everyday life, it's pretty powerful and impactful. I wrote something else down here. So the 5 F's.
Okay.
So as you're assessing your 5 F's, how do you kind of move through life? I don't believe that there's really a balance in life, but I think some seasons and sometimes you have to put more effort into one area, and then sometimes you go back. When you're working with people or your life or your friend that you were on the phone with, how do you tell them to balance?
Well, I think you just said it, right? There's imperfect balance.
Yeah.
Working mostly with business owners, 1 to 100 million, privately held companies, right? You get that sense, right? Like there's a burden of all the hats they're wearing. They just cracked $1 million in business, and they just haven't still learned how to run a business, even though $1 million, like that's 9% of all American companies ever hit $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between the 5 million. Yeah, 9%. It's a small percentage.
So what's the 5 million mark?
It gets shrinks.
Yeah.
It's small and small. That's why, like, when people are like, oh, I'm core middle market, like I do 100 million plus. Well, good. Okay, well, hey, there's like 7 people to talk to. Right? And everybody's fighting for them, right?
That's true.
It's kind of like being a financial advisor with ultra wealthy people. Like I mean, it's a smaller group, right?
Yeah.
So you can, make good money, but it's a smaller group. So, sorry, so how do you manage through?
Yeah, like how do you? I mean, we know it ebbs and flows, but how do you have to,
Spinning
like,
plates.
yeah, spinning plates.
Look,
Perfect.
a guy I follow, you guys may have heard of him, Ed Milet. So I love Ed Milet. One of the things that I learned from him was 3 days in one.
Okay.
So about 7 or 8 years ago, like my early 40s, Milet came out with this and he said, hey, he's like, the reason I crush is because I've got 3 days and you've got 1 day. Well, I'm like, what? So, and I'm not saying that you have to live this way, okay? But 6 to 12, 8, so 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. Is one full day. And 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. is another full day. And 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. Or 12 a.m., sorry.
Yeah.
So not everybody needs to have an 18-hour day. But yesterday I had a 21-hour day. I got up at 5:45 because I do the breakfast for the kids and stuff like that. And I do, my wife sleeps in. And I went to bed at 1:45 yesterday. Okay, so like a 21-hour day.
Yeah.
And I'm super jacked, right? Because guess what? I also got it. I got in the sauna. I got in a workout. I got great food. I got time with my daughter at her soccer practice. That I was physically there, watching her in the sport that I loved, soccer. That was my first sport. I got to hug my kids. I got to pick up my daughters. I got to do two or three deals. I got to have lunch with a potential bank that wants me and is sending me an offer letter. I got to do breakfast. I got to cook a dinner that I told you about.
The Brussels sprouts.
So that's, ladies and gentlemen, right? That's spinning plates, right?
Yeah.
But I accomplished a lot. And one thing that I do is I reset after that teaching that I had shared is I reset at 12 o'clock. So today, 12 o'clock, guess what? I've done a lot from 6 a.m.
Yeah.
12 to today.
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast with awesome Christina, right? From 12 to whatever time it's going to be. But till 6 p.m. is my other day.
Yeah.
So whatever I didn't accomplish, so sometimes you have bad mornings, right? And sometimes people watch this, whatever. And you're like, oh, you got everything. No, it doesn't mean that my life is perfect or anything.
Yeah.
But I spent 21 hours up yesterday. I got 5 hours of sleep today. But I'm jacked because the spinning of the wheels is what excites me. All right. And like you said, there's going to be more energy put into some perils of life. Like sometimes my wife, right? She's going through, ladies, you relate to this. I hope it's okay to say pre-mental, right?
Yeah.
Menopause and all that stuff, right? I mean,
you're just more tired and you just can't do as much.
Yeah. And honestly, as a guy, I'm like, what? What is fun? What is that?
We actually have women, whether you're bleeding or not, we work on 28-day cycles.
Okay.
Always for our entire life.
Oh, really?
Men. So what you're talking about works really well for men.
Okay.
You guys work on a 24-hour cycle.
Okay.
And your day starts over again. So you could put your 3 days in there. We are much more productive in the first 14 days, and we have much more energy, even if you're bleeding or not bleeding.
Okay.
The next 14 days are more of a time for women to go internal, and they don't want all of this stuff, or they might nest, like some people call it nesting or whatever. So I'm part of this syndication group, and we pool our money together to invest in startups and do angel investing.
Yeah.
And the woman who runs the company, it's called She's Independent. She put together a calendar for her cycle on 28 days on when the first 14 days she has openings, does more podcasts and book reviews and different and things like that. And then the other 14 days, she has only one appointment that she'll allow to come in. So she has time to rest or rejuvenate.
Huh.
Yeah. So maybe you learned something.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, look, I had to learn a lot having 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And being married, 18 years. So, yeah. So, I mean, to me, hopefully that helps someone that 3 days in one, and maybe it's more relatable to the dudes, but gals, like you said, I think there's learning from someone like yourself, allowing yourself to be coached will get balance, right? Like I said yesterday, I got all those things in, and I got to work out in sauna.
Yeah.
To me right now, the sauna has been a breakthrough for me. When I spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in the sauna, the heat, it like compresses and does whatever it does, because I learned from Rogan and some other people about saunas. But I get out of the sauna and that heat, and then I try to, most of the time I'm swimming trunks, I'll dip into the pool for the cool side.
Yeah.
Man, I just come out like
Better.
enlightened, better, like clarity, all that stuff. I'm taking creatine. I'm doing some things that are also helping, right, from a metabolic standpoint, but all that stuff helps. So look, my faith, like I've mentioned a few times, sometimes falters, and then I'm into Bible study and put myself in something that regimented to, one of my faith, read the Bible, right? My family, sometimes I'm imbalanced because I'm traveling, I'm doing stuff, I'm working, I've got events downtown. I don't get home. I don't see my kids go to sleep. Probably I've been imbalanced. My finances, right? Like sometimes you don't talk to your spouse for a month and you're like, hey, how much do we spend?
Yeah.
What's going on here? How come this credit card went up or this bank account went down, whatever, that type of thing.
You were in town, so we went shopping.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Us and the three girls went shopping. So then, fitness, finance, and then fun, right? Like sometimes, like date nights, like that's been, it's hard when you have kids, like as a couple. I've had to learn that a ton. One of my good friends, the Coffees, just the other day, he's like, hey, his wife name's Trina, and he's like, hey, we're just going to go happy hour at Kubo downtown.
Yeah.
And they live in Wheat. And I'm like, we doing what? And he's like, yeah, we're just going for happy hour and we're going to get away for 2 hours. Just you and the wife? I'm like, that's genius, man. Like, it's really cool. Like, but they slotted some time for themselves. And I've been bad at that. Like, I run, I'm like, and now I forget. I'm like, oh, we have really a date like in 4 months or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm always imbalanced, imperfectly imbalanced. So, and I think that's something that hopefully you embrace. It's not a negative thing, but then give yourself, like you said, some space to coach, to do things, to self-absorb. I before it was cool, I was metrosexual. So like, meaning like I like facials, I like massages, I like all this stuff. I don't give a crap what guys say. Like, like you're the ones missing out, not me. Like, I like going to Asha Salon and Lumbar and getting away for 2 hours. So I love it. So,
and we all need it. It's like, and no matter feminine, masculine, whatever.
Yeah.
First of all, another little like side tip that I have is useless knowledge. We all have a little bit of feminine and masculine in us, not one or the other. And some people, even if you're feminine, if you're a woman, you might have more masculine tendencies and energy in you than, and that doesn't mean like sexual way, right? So we just have to feed that. That's one just random thing. Yeah. The other thing is that self-care. So whether you're a male or a female, you're taking care of yourself. You're allowing your body to rest. You're doing these things that make you feel good, whether it's a facial or whatever. Who cares if you're a man or a woman? If you like to go get your pedicure done, men can do that. It's self-care. Either way, you're going to have to do it, right? You have to cut your nails. Like you have to take care of yourself. Whether you go somewhere and do it or you do it on your own. And then the other thing is though self-love. And I think people get this confused a lot is, well, I went and got a massage for myself. So yeah, I showed myself I loved myself. Nothing's really that self-care. Like self-love is kind of what we were talking about before we hit record here. It's sitting with yourself and, reading this book and then giving yourself some time to say, okay, of these, the 4A formula, what's really resonating with me and what's not? And where do I need to ask internal Christina, little Christina, inner child me?
Wait.
What do I need to be able to take these steps and get over the hump of just reading this, right? And that comes, what I call is like the wall of fear, but that only comes when you have enough strength to sit within yourself and then go forward and answer what that little child needs inside of you.
Oh, I love that. I mean, yeah, that's just sick. I like that.
So, question for you. If I had you in front of a whole bunch of students, eighth grade to graduating high school, young professionals, being told, most of them still, you have to go to college, you got to do these, you got to do this, this, and this, you have to fit into this box. What would your advice to them be if they were here listening to you?
Especially now in 2026 with AI and over the last 18 months, it's evolution. I'm challenging my daughters and look, I mean, we're paying out of pocket living in Naperville. We don't go public. There's some reasons for that, just faith-based and all that type of stuff, but also protecting them from certain things, right? That we feel that we want to do as a family. But education-wise, I got to say, like, I didn't get my degree. So, and I think the first 15 years of my life, probably from like 25, when all my buddies were starting to graduate college or going into an MBA or some of that, I was a little self-conscious about it, right? Even though I had my own business, I was making more money than all of them. But for many years, I felt like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to get a chance. Like once I sold my business in '09, the one that I sold, initially I got through my connections, I got into banking, into finance, because that was my alignment. But then to grow an HR person, about 3 years into it, I grew really fast. I had entrepreneurial mindset in a job. So I grew fast. But there came a block and the HR guy said, I remember this thing was Robert Sharon, if you ever listened. So
We'll send it to
yeah, we're sending to him. So no, he literally said, he's like, hey, you don't have a degree, so you're not going to be in management here. I was like, oh, interesting. And I was a project manager then for a pretty big bank. And I was like,
which it actually, kids listening, project management is almost harder than managing people because you have to manage without direct,
or through inputs and not without direct reports.
Yes.
So it's interesting, right? And that learning lesson, wow, that's money you make. That is actually where, in those years of being a project manager, 2011 to 2013, it's like a switch happened. Like I no longer cared. Like, first of all, there's a book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. And I read it 2 years ago, so it wasn't back then. But it was kind of the reference that he says, choose your enemies wisely. And I chose Robert Sharing Housing to internally say to myself, yeah, okay, I don't have the degree, and I'm still going to be super successful in this corporate world. Because I came from entrepreneurial, because that's where I built my life. But then when I got into corporate, and testament today, right? I'm a senior vice president, with aspirations of running probably a bank in the future, stuff like that. Nobody asked me if I have a degree,
Right.
Not one person.
Yep.
Well, like background, and it's on my resume that I'm degraded, right? Not one of them are like, I really think things should, So, and I'm not saying that not having degrees is a good thing or bad. Okay. I think with the evolution of AI, with the way I'm teaching my kids, is the 4A formula, again, in my opinion, because of who I'm aligned with, is more important than I said earlier, than the competencies and the things that I know, because access to information is so much easier.
Yeah.
Right. So what was interpreted in my 20s and early 30s as like, hey, you didn't get the education and you don't know something, even though I was outperforming those people, now is like, I would tell all the young people, like, hey, if there's something specific, like engineering, some of it, like, dive into it. Like, if maybe it does need a degree. I don't know for sure the next 2 to 3 years if it will anymore. But for now, if there's something specific you want to pursue, be at Duco, right? Like this education, autodidact is what I've always learned, is like this self-education. So I've always been a humongous reader. I've read a ton of books, right? I see all the books behind you. I've got a stack of books that I read, right? From Tony Robbins to just, more, right? And my daughter, my 13-year-old, my 14-year-old, she's devoured probably 150 books to her. She's like like we're driving, she wants to read.
Yeah.
She's in her bedroom, she wants to read. Like she's just really a big reader. So to me, yeah, I think on the surface, a degree means something to certain people and to certain situations and to certain, like, you can't get into McKinsey, without like high level Stanford, but they recruit from there. Like that's where they go to get talent.
Well, and even then, it's like some outdated like norms that we have that can change in the coming years.
Yeah.
Really. And the way that I love what you're saying, because it's like, look at what you want to do, starting around 8th grade. I know it's hard as young people to really figure out like, what is it I want to do? But if you're like dead set on, let's say, becoming a lawyer or something like that, okay, well, what's the return on investment? Am I going to get a scholarship? Am I going to, go to school for $500,000 and come out with these huge loans? Is that the best thing to start your life long term on? Or is it taking some of these books or going to some certifications? I mean, I can speak from my experience. My college degree, I use it sometimes in theory, but really I've learned everything through books or certification programs where it's like I had to read and learn and apply and then come back and then actually do it in real life to get better and better at it,
So you had a question earlier that makes me kind of go deeper. That in that scenario, you're getting a certificate for a reason, right? That you've got. But the reason was also, and tell me if I'm wrong, was to then use it. Right? We're not really about to learn.
That's right. So like when I sold my company, I was like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I did some soul searching and I was like, well, hypnosis helped me. So I'm going to go get my certification in hypnosis, learn all about it, put my 400 hours in or whatever it was, and then go apply it. And that's what I'm doing.
So, and I think this is one of the questions that you may have lined up, but, if you're going to pick up this book, if you're going to pick up anything or do a certification, right? If you actually don't have an end in mind and a need that you will move you, then you're not going to actually get through that wall of fear.
Yeah, that's right.
But your wall of fear was destroyed because you already knew, like, hey, I'm going to go use this thing that I'm learning to then go create this other space of abundance.
And I'm not going to let anything stop me because I have a vision.
Yeah.
And that's where, so like for anybody young or parents listening, it's like, you don't have to have a vision board necessarily, but you have to understand that why am I doing this and what is it going to do for me? I mean, innately, most people want, to feel like they're confident. They want to feel happy. They want to feel fulfilled, blissful, peaceful. Like nobody comes in and is like, well, I really want some shitty job that's going to make me feel like shit. And,
Yeah. Nobody says that, right? So,
but then so many of us get into the cycle of it. And it's, because, kind of goes back to what we've been talking about all along with this book. It's alignment.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a vision, then you don't really know what's aligned with you. And that's part of life, and your vision changes and grows as you change and grow. But going to school might not be the necessary way to do it.
And I love, that blue collar work is getting a lot more recognition nowadays, right? And that's a sort of certification because you go through apprenticeship and you learn piping and plumbing and roofing and all that stuff. And to me, I still think that there's no AI that's taking that over, right? So again, relationships, learning some things. Like my oldest daughter, I cannot talk about her, but she can take 1,000 pieces of Lego and just like make something that's crazy. I'm like, oh, what do you do? Like, I'm the worst guy. Like, if you need to put up a ceiling fan or anything, like, don't call me.
Your daughter's doing it.
Yeah. Well, so
he's got his 13-year-old.
All right. So watch this. So we bought one of those Wallace, like a Stanley, thing, like the thermos. All right. And it's a handle. So I'm hopefully describing this. It's a wall, right? They have like different shapes and sizes. And this one you press and the thing flips up.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And I buy it. I'm cool. I'm like, cool dad, right? Like, got me a new wallet because all the girls had a wallet. So I'm like, I got myself a wallet, a nice blue and black one. So I'm using it. And 3 days later, I'm like pissed. I'm like, I did bought this freaking thing and it's broken already. And I'm like pressing it. They're like pressing it, like, out. And then Aria comes out about up somewhere in the house. And I'm like, she said, why are you so stressed, Dad? I'm like, I don't know, this stupid thing. I just bought it 3 days ago. Like, I'm going to have to return it. And she's like, here you go. I'm like, but what do you mean? It's broken. She's like, no. There's a little lever here in back of it. So it's basically the opening.
Yeah.
There's a little lever and that's basically sticking out that I didn't look for.
Yeah.
Because that's not how my brain thinks. So she moved it to the other side and she goes, there you go. She walks in and I was so pissed. I was so mad, but so happy, so proud of her stuff. But that's the whole left brain, right brain.
It is.
So I get super frustrated. I'm like, I look at your beautiful stuff here. I'm like, all right, I need to hire someone because I wouldn't know how to get this mic to work with this and that, whatever. So I'm always spending money on those things. So
Well, that's what makes the world go around, right?
yeah.
So, all right, last question, because I know we've been going for a while.
Yeah.
Who are you beneath all of the titles? Father, banker, finance person, like, who are you? Husband, all that stripped away.
We didn't do a session between you and I, so how am I supposed to know? So,
Do you want to do a session? This could be really fun.
I just think, a little hypnosis. I think, the book allowed me to find a lot of who I am through the processes I use to get through or to accomplish things in the 5S, right? So my faith side, recently reconnected 1.5 years with a Bible study through a assistant coach that we started coaching together, our 5th grade girls as volunteers. And then I didn't know that, he was, faith-based or religious or whatever, but he introduced me to his group that he was forming, about 12 guys, like Jesus took 12 tribe of 12. So, that's helped me because I've had some things that I've failed at. Like I love it, right? Fake book and all these places that you feel like, oh man, life's so grand. It's so easy. It's so, so I call it fake book because everybody puts their best on Facebook, right? Or their best on IG or their best on LinkedIn or the best, Sarah. But, all of us have scars and wounds and things that we caught through or major, major downfalls, right? So I say that humbly to say like, hey, this guy got me back into like reassessing my faith through some challenges I've had in my marriage the last 3 or 4 years. So then who am I is a person that's concentrating on always, improving myself for the next 1%.
Yeah.
That's who I feel I am.
I feel like an energy that's kind of moving up towards the next thing and the next thing and quality.
Yeah. And I recently admitted, this last 60 days I've been unemployed. But it's funny because, with the severance and the unemployment that I'd never, ever tapped into as an entrepreneur, you don't even think that. We're like, what do you mean? One of my buddies is like, at the bank that let me go, he's like, hey, you should take unemployment. What? He's like, well, you just paid for it for 35 years. Like, you've been paying it, like, take it. I'm like, all right. And I reluctantly go at nights and like, then I find out, I'm like, oh shit, I was extra $2,800 that I was just going to let go. Like, I was not going to let the state pay me for money that I did, whatever. I didn't even think about it. Like,
yeah.
So I'm like, but that's all to say this, that in this last 60 days, I've also realized what you just literally said, which I love the way you eloquently said. I'm never going to retire. I'm not a retired guy. Like, I'll be 85 and I could still move money, still talk to people, still give wisdom, still give while I'm still here. And I just got chills again because just like the book, Leaving Some Behind, like I'm cheating my family. I'm cheating my friends. I'm cheating the people I do business with. I'm cheating God. I'm cheating everybody. If I'm like, oh, well, this is good enough. And I'm retiring. Man, like that doesn't even make sense to me now.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like who's to say that any life and any one consciousness is is well lived, right? So
Yeah.
if you lived for 80 years and you didn't do much, you just sat on the couch and ate and have consumed and all these things, is that a life well lived? I don't know. Or is it giving back to others, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, and continuing this beauty of what we have here? Is that a life well lived? Ask yourself that.
Yeah, I mean, ask yourself. I mean, it's something that you ponder, and as you get older, you do tend to ponder that more because you're invincible in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Then you realize, oh shit, like I just woke up with a sports injury, and I'm 42, and didn't actually do anything last night. Right? So, as an example, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a specific answer more than just that I've realized that for me, if I can improve the cliche 1% every day, I feel like I'll never get to 100% because I'm never going to be perfect. My family, $3 of a wife, it's 4 women yelling at me all the time for
Loving on you.
loving on me or emotionally. I walk into the house sometimes I'm like, what the hell is what's going on here?
You should have a calendar of like all the cycles of just know when to stay away.
I'm gonna have to ask you about the latter 14 days. So that, my finance, my fitness, my fun, just finding ways to just stay true. So I love being with people. I like this. This is like, like I said, I have 5 hours sleep. I'm more energized right now. I can do this for 3 hours. Just you and I click very well. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, we're all, like, I'm present.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I've learned to be more present.
Mhm.
And that is who I am. I'm a present person. I'm trying to give the moment that I had with my friend driving here for 25 minutes. He is off to his world.
Yeah.
He lives in Chicago and is doing his thing. But I left the seed of something that will hopefully God will flourish and give him the insights of where he could go with the struggles he's having in this job.
Yeah, you kind of, the way I would look at it is you created a space. You let him kind of pour the dirt into it. You gave him a little seed of knowledge, wisdom, whatever. He decided to take it and he's like, oh, I am going to put that into my dirt that I got going on here, kind of my mess, and it's going to grow.
She's awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to not only up the subscriber base, keep on flowing with her. And if you don't know what she does, inquire and make sure that you're a part of her tribe. So. And
I'm going to hire him for my sponsorships. So thank you guys for listening. You can find John in the show notes. I'll put a link to Amazon for his book. You got to check it out. And we appreciate you listening. We love you guys and look forward to seeing you next time.